So last time we looked at how to measure, okay, and we showed that it very almost succeeds in generalizing the length of the interval. So this almost succeeded in generalizing the length of an interval. Now why do we say almost? Because it just fell short, little bit. Almost, because it fell short in additivity. That is, we couldn't show that disjoint pieces put together give the whole. We could get only sub-additivity. So we got only what does that mean? That is, if m star of the union was only less than or equal to the sum of the m stars we were able to show. We were not able to show equal to. So that is m star of union is equal to 1 to infinity a n or m star equal to summation a n for any sequence a n disjoint or otherwise. Whether they are disjoint or not, we couldn't get equal. The only thing we could get was less than equal. So therefore, we were almost lucky. We got through the generalization of quantification, but fell short in the additivity, which was the one of the main requirements, that pieces put together give the whole thing in measurements. Okay. So therefore, we backtrack. And say, well, maybe we were too ambitious. What did m star do? It gave a quantification of all subsets of R. So backtrack and say, perhaps we were too ambitious and tried to quantify all subsets of R. So what we do is backtrack and say, maybe we should consider this quantification only for a sub-collection of 2. Not all subsets of R, but only a sub-collection. Now it is here that certain different approaches are there, but now I will do only that approach which is normally found in standard textbooks now, and which is also useful in the generalization of measure theory to abstract measures, real measure to the abstract measure. So therefore, how do we decide? Which subclass we should restrict? That's the main question. How do we decide what subcollection of subsets of R should we restrict to? Now, Let's look at it the following. Okay. So let A be any subset of R. Okay. Now what I do is I think of A as some kind of a butcher's knife. Okay. And then I go and cut any subset that I find on the real line and go on butchering it. Okay. So let X be any subset of R and look at what is it? Here is X. I take the A and cut it. When I take the A and cut it, the X gets split into two parts. Okay. So the X gets split into two parts. That part which is in A, that part which is in X complement. So look at the splicing of X obtained by namely X equal to X intersection A union X intersection A. This is the splicing that takes place of X into 2. Now, I want to take only those sets A in the subcollection which are good knives. What are good knives? The good knives are those that when I splice and the two pieces of meat are weighed, I get the total mass. That is, the original meat piece was X. I took the butcher's knife and cut it into two parts. I got one piece which I am selling, the other piece which I am not selling. But the total mass must be the same, which is the common sense. So we want A to be such that look at the measure of this whole piece and look at the measure of these two sliced pieces. They must be equal. A priori, I was not able to do it because countable the subadditivity tells only it is less than or equal to. Because if X is equal to this union this, then subadditivity says M star X is less than or equal to this plus this. Now the knife is good, it will make it equal. So we are going to take only good knives. These are the subcollection. Okay. So now what I am going to do is,
so what is the guarantee that this will hold for even a single game?
we will see that. We have to make sure that we are not playing a vacuous game. Okay. That's why when somebody states a theorem, ask for an example, or are you playing a vacuous game? Your theorem is that nothing satisfies the conditions and you have a conclusion. Okay. So absolutely right. Yes, absolutely right. So therefore, we now give a definition. The subset A of R is said to be Lebesgue measurable. Is said to be a Lebesgue measurable set from afterwards I simply write measurable set. Only Lebesgue measurable differentiating with the rest of the discussion. If this slicing policy holds, M star X is equal to M star X intersection A plus M star X intersection A complement for whatever mean piece I take, for every X in R. For every X in R, the slicing should be nice. This A is such a good knife. Whatever piece you take and cut it, the two pieces add up together to form something like what happens to Duryodhana. Splicing the two pieces is joins together, except until Krishna came up with a non-measurable Duryodhana. Okay, so that's my, that's the sub collection. So let B be the collection of all Lebesgue measurement sets. Let me call it BL to show that Lebesgue. Okay. Now as he is worried, I don't even know whether anything in BL is there at all in BL or it's a vector set. So as we go along, we will make sure that some things are there. So what is it that we would like this BL to be? Now, whenever we want a collection of sets, we want it to do all these theoretic operations. So ideally, we will make sure that what we are aiming at, ideally, we would like the following. One, BL is non-empty. Take first worry. Two, even that's not enough. We want to make sure that we are not lost our intervals. We started with quantifying the intervals, so all the intervals must be measurable sets. E is contained in BL. Where what is E? The collection of all intervals. That will make this first statement redundant. Okay, so that's what we would make. Okay, then 3. Let me write 1, 2, 3. Why I put this one? It's easier. The next thing is we would like BL to be closed under standard set theoretic operation. What does that mean? In technical language, we want it to be a sigma algebra. That is, BL is sigma algebra. 3. Okay. So next, what else do we want? We want when we calculate the outer measure for these BL sets, all nice things happen. Namely, M star restricted to BL is additive, is countably additive. So we like this to happen. Then we have achieved. And we already have proved that M star of an interval is the length of the interval. Therefore, we have got an extension of the interval concept to a large collection of sets which is bigger than the intervals, which is sigma algebra, and on which countable additivity holds. And if we do this, then M star restricted to BL will be an extension of the concept of length, an interval. Two, the sigma algebra containing that's the first step. We'll go into this little deeper later, but at least first achievement would have been met. Okay, so the idea is you choose a sub-collection of sets of R in such a way that nice slicing takes place by these knives for any arbitrary set, and take those collections and claim hopefully that this is a non-empty sigma algebra containing E on which M star is countably active. If that is done, then we, and if that, we will show all this happens, and then therefore M star restricted to BL. We will call that the Lebesgue measure on the real line. We will show is true when M star restricted to BL is called Lebesgue measure. Okay, so our aim therefore is, we have now the collection of all measurable, Lebesgue measurable sets on R, we'll call it BL. We have to make sure that that's a nice collection and M star behaves well on that collection. We'll show it's all true and then we will got the construction of the Lebesgue measure. We'll go and see how big that sigma algebra is, etc. later. Right, okay. Now let me make look at this. First, I will keep this definition. A contained in R is the Lebesgue measurable set. If M star X is equal to M star intersection A plus M star intersection A complement for every this is our definition. Whenever we want to show some set A is measurable, we have to verify this identity for every x, that this holds for every x. But now, so clearly M star X is less than or equal to by subadditivity that we have seen, because X is the union of these two and therefore by subadditivity that is true. So in order to achieve this, only the greater than inequality has to be proved. Hence, remark, to prove A is measurable, A is a measurable set, enough to show that, it's enough to show that M star X is greater than or equal to M star X intersection A plus M star X intersection A complement for every X. This is what we will always do to prove something is measurable. But this is for free. That comes out from the subadditivity of M star. So only the inequality we have to prove the other inequality, and once we show this, we will automatically get A is measured. Okay, so now we will start looking at class of all Lebesgue measurable set. From the definition, you see that it is symmetric in A and A prime. If you switch the positions of if you replace A by A prime, still the result holds. Therefore, if A is measurable, automatically A prime is also measurable. Okay, so the definition is symmetric in A and A prime. That is, if you replace A by A prime, the result still holds. And therefore, A belongs to BL. So one of the things is taken care of. It's closed under at least one set theoretic operation, okay? Which implies BL closed under complementation. this here, I'll write the discussion somewhere else and write only the conclusions here. Okay. Suppose now A is a set is such that its outer measure is 0. It's a very innocuous looking result, but it will be very useful later. Okay. Suppose I have a set whose outer measure is 0. Do we know any sets whose outer measure is 0? We know that the empty set, finite set, countably infinite sets all have outer measure 0. We saw it last time. So there are sets which are having outer measure 0. So suppose it is so, then we will see whether see if A is measured. For that, we have to show that m star x is greater than or equal to this. Now we have at least this. Without this it is true, right? Because x intersection A complement is contained in x and m is monotone. Okay. Now x contains x intersection A complement. Therefore, by monotonicity of m star, where m star x is greater than or equal to m star x intersection. But m star x intersection A is 0. Why? Because it is less than or equal to A, which is 0. It is non-negative, therefore it must be 0. So m star x intersection A is equal to 0. So if I add, nothing happens. So therefore, I just add a 0 to both sides. And that's precisely what I wanted to show. M star x is greater than or equal to m star x intersection A. So therefore, any set which is of outer measure 0 is measurable. Okay. This is very tricky. That's a very interesting thing. Therefore, if you take a set with, okay, let me first write. So any set with outer measure 0 is measurable. Now once we have this, it is measurable, we call that outer measure now as measure. So it will have measure 0, m star will be 0. Now the interesting thing is, if you take any set with measure 0, every subset also has measure 0. So every subset of a 0 measure set will be measurable. And that is a very important thing. Okay. And hence, every subset of a set with 0 measure now this is what we are going to use to show that our collection of measurable sets is very large. In fact, as large as the collection of all subsets of R. In other words, we will construct one set which is the same cardinality as the real lines and whose outer measure is 0. And once we do that, every subset of that is also measurable. Since its cardinality is C, it will have 2 to the C subsets, which is the cardinality of R. So we will use this result eventually to show that our collection of Lebesgue measurable set is a huge collection as having the same cardinality as the collection of all subsets, and still misses a lot. Okay. That's the beauty of it. Okay. That's the beauty of dealing with infinity. You have as big as the original set, and you have missed things which are as big as the original set. Okay, so now, what is the, let me make the comment here. Consequently, the empty set, all finite sets and all countably infinite sets are measurable. Why? Because they are the outer measure 0 and therefore they must be measurable. So therefore we have the answer to your question. There are fellows there. Look, it's not a vacuous collection. We will see much more than that. This is only the beginning. Maybe I should keep remembering that. This is what you have to always show for something is measurable. Right. The next, so we made several statements here. At least that it is a non-empty collection we have got. So now we want to make sure that first of all, it is closed under all set theoretic descent operations. The first step is we already seen it is closed under complementation. That is the simplest unary operation on sets. Then the next is the union. So you forget about countable, etc., etc. First see, you take two sets and see whether the union is there. So the next thing is, suppose I take A and B. Is A union B? So in other words, is the union of two measurable sets, is it measurable? That's the simplest question. Suppose the answer to this question is yes, then I can do finite number of them. A union B union C is also measurable. So if you know 2, you know finite. So therefore, the main fundamental question is the union of two measurable sets measurable? Now, what should we show? If you want to say yes, we must show that m star x intersection, suppose I call this set C, A union B as C. That's what this says. If you want to show something is measurable, you want to show this. So I want to show C is measurable. So I want to show that C is a good knife, butcher knife. So it butchers X rightly, so that the two cut pieces make up the total piece. Now, this is what we want to show. So let's look at whether this is true. What is X intersections? It is X intersection A union B. Now I am going to write A union B as A union B minus C. See, A is here, B is here. So A union B can be written as this portion plus that portion, which is, this portion is A and that portion is B minus A, which is B intersection, the part of B which is not in A. Because the part which is in A has already been taken care of here. So you can write it as that part of B which is, so we can write this as X intersection A union B intersection A complement. Right? Now what is this? De Morgan's law. This is X intersection A union X intersection A complement intersection. Right? So therefore, I think now I will remember this always. Remember that this is what we will always show for measurement. Now that says, by subadditivity, M star X intersection C, X intersection C is the union of these two things. So the M star X intersection C will be less than or equal to M star X intersection A plus M star X intersection A complement intersection B. Okay, that takes care of this term. Then, what about this term? What is X intersection C? What is C complement? It is C is A union B. C complement is A complement intersection B complement. So this should be just right. So just add. So what is it? M star X intersection C plus M star X intersection C complement is less than or equal to M star X intersection A plus M star X intersection A complement intersection B plus M star X intersection A complement intersection B. Now if you look at our proof so far, from here, nowhere we have said use the fact that A is measurable, nowhere we have used the fact that B is measurable. Now we are going to start using it. Now B is measurable. So if you take B and slice X intersection A complement, you will get two pieces, the one which is in B, the one which is in B plane, but the two together should give me the whole B. So this is equal to M star X intersection A plus M star Z intersection B plus M star Z intersection B complement, where Z is X intersection. But now use the measurability of B. So this is equal to M star X intersection A plus M star Z because B is measurable. Now I use that fact, B measurability. But what is that? X intersection. Now again use the fact that A is measurable. So therefore this is exactly equal to M star X because A is constant. So this sum is less than or equal to this. This is exactly what we wanted to prove. We wanted to show that M star X is greater than or equal to sum of that sum. Okay, this called proving one. Okay, so we keep repeatedly splitting the sets in such a way that properly you get the right characteristic. So therefore, we have got the third property that BL is closed under two unions and therefore finite union. So therefore, BL is closed under and anything like this is called an algebra. Not a sigma. Sigma comes when you have countable union. Now finite union is any non-empty collection which is closed under complementation and finite union is called an algebra. Okay, so up to this therefore BL is an algebra of subsets of Okay. See, in these things, real line is no role to play. Basically, it's a theoretical operation with definition of M star, the basic properties of M star. So, you could have worked in any abstract setup, and as long as the M star had the nice properties of subadditivity, and you defined a measurability in this manner, and then all these properties would have gone through, the only problem you would have had would be to show it's a non-empty collection, but then we know that M star phi is 0. The empty set is at least there, and by complementation, whole set is there. So at least guarantee it's a non-empty collection and that it is an algebra. So this part will go through in any abstract setup. We have not used the fact that the real line is playing the role. The M star properties are the basic things that are playing the role. Okay, so what is the next one? Where shall we start? Okay, so we will start here. Now, we rather carefully take our steps. The moment we know that if I take a finite number of measurable sets, that union is also a measurable set, it makes now sense to ask whether the measure of the union is some of the measures were finite closed. So therefore, it makes sense. I'll write property 4 here later. It makes sense to ask if M star union J equal to 1 to n Aj is equal to summation J equal to 1 to n M star Aj for A1, A2. Because it's closed under, this is also in BL, this is also BL, because eventually we want to restrict M star to BL. So we are talking about additivity only in the universe of BL. No, we are not going outside the universe of BL. We will show that even a slightly general result which we will use. What is that? What we will say is, not only this, we will show this, I should say disjoint. We will show that A1, A2, AN disjoint sets in BL implies M star of X intersection union J equal to 1 to n Aj is equal to summation J equal to 1 to n M star of X intersection Aj for every X. What has that got to do with this? If you take X equal to R, this result is this. So this is only a special. If you take X equal to R, if you are intersecting with the whole real line, you will get only this. And here you will intersection with the whole real line, you will get only Uj, and that is this. So X equal to R gives finite additivity on. Okay. Oh, let's see. Okay. So. Therefore, immediately make sure that within the finite region everything is okay. Additivity also holds. The next thing is, let me come. We are not yet proved this. We'll come to the proof of this later. So I owe a proof for this. So let's put where was that? 4. So this we are not yet proved. Now suppose we have. Suppose we have proved 4. Then what we have done is we have made ourselves very comfortable with finite moves. I can take finite number of measurable sets, put them together, the disjoint, the sum of the pieces equal to the whole holds there, everything is okay. So therefore I am now a little bit bold and try to go towards the next step, which is the countable. So the next step is to ask if BL is closed under countable. That is the next step. So, now actually it is enough if we show that it is closed under disjoint countable union, because any union can be written as a countable disjoint union, and these are all algebra, so A minus also will be there and so on and so forth. So I'll just say that enough to show that BL is closed under disjoint countable. So that's the next result. So next property is that 5. So now I will just list the properties. 5. So we'll make the bold move next. We will show that this is the next 5. BL is closed under countability. And now at this stage, therefore, I can write BL is a sigma algebra. BL. Right? Because now it is closed under complementation, it's a non-empty collection, closed under complementation, closed under countable union, and that's what we call as a sigma algebra. Once with these two, it is closed under complementation and closed under countable union, everything else is taken care of. Okay? All the difference, symmetric difference, intersection, everything is closed under, so it's a nice collection of objects, sets in which you can perform all the basic set theoretic operations. Now once we have this, we get bolder. Since it is closed under countable union, now we can ask whether countable additivity holds within that collection. Take a sequence of sets only measurable sets, then the union will also be a measurable set in BL. So I am restricting M star to BL. So now whether countable additivity holds within that class, and that's the last countable additivity. M star holds on BL. That is AJ, J equal to 1 to infinity, or measurable sets, disjoint implies M star of the union J equal to AJ is community. Okay? So therefore, we have now succeeded in extending the concept of a length, retaining all the fundamental structures to a sigma algebra of subsets of R. Of course, there is one thing that nagging behind us. Have we lost our intervals? We are nowhere said that the intervals are measurable. So that is the next thing we will take up. That at least now we say that we are able to push this concept of length to a huge collection of objects called Lebesgue measurable sets. Okay. Now, let me go backwards. Let's say that we will prove 6. Assuming as though we have proved 4 and 5 necessary, we can use 4 and 5. Then we will go and prove 5, then we will go and prove 4. So now I'll just indicate the proofs. 6. It's now very easy. So, AJ, J belongs to J equal to infinity, belongs to BL, AJ. We want to show that the M star of the union is, so let's call the union J equal to 1 to infinity AJ as A. This also belongs to BL, which is the question. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's given. Okay. Why? So we assume that it is 5. 5 is valid and therefore. So we want to show that this M star of the union is the sum of the M star. Now consider this set. What shall I call it? BM. Why? Because I know only about finite fellows. So I will stay within the realm of finite fellows. So instead of looking at the infinite union, let me look at the finite union. The same story I always say, you reduce it to the previous case. You always, that is a standard trick of doing mathematics. You do a simple thing, then you get the next level of problem, reduce it to the previous case, and therefore you are done. Then you go to the next level, reduce it to that previous case, and then therefore to the previous case, and so on and so forth. So you first take, if you want a countable finite number of unions, first reduce it to finally 2 unions. That you do. Then for a countable fellow, you come to the finite union. Any question?
Why is 4 different from 3? Like, once you have proved 3, that means you have also proved.
Once we have proved
3, then it is finite.
3 is finite. Here it is
4, 3 and 4.
What is 4? 4. Where is 4?
Yes, 4. Yes, below.
Yeah, 4 is this. This is only finite. Now look at infinite. I am taking only a finite number of steps. But now I am allowed to take a sequence of steps, infinite number of steps. So that is where the basic problem is, okay, going from finite to infinite. So I am comfortable only with finite. Okay. This is what I call as the pneumonia doctor. I know only to treat pneumonia, I will convert every disease to pneumonia and then treat. So first I construct the pneumonia. I take this fellow and make him a pneumonia patient, at least close to a pneumonia patient. Now, Bn, that I know. Why? Because it's finite. And also, why is that? That is by 4. Finite identity. Right. Is this true? Bn is contained in A because A is a full union. Bn is truncated union. So therefore, monotone is C. Right? And therefore, this must be less than or equal. Therefore, summation j equal to 1 to m star j is less than or equal to m star j. This is true for every n. I could have started with 1, I could have started with 2, I could have started with 3. True for this is for every n. This is true for every n. This is true for every n. I can let n go to that. This is a monotone one decreasing sequence, the sum, and then increases, the sum increases, is bounded above by m star a, and therefore summation j equal to 1 to infinity m star a j is less than or equal to m star. But we wanted to show equal. But a is there. Therefore by subadditivity m star a will be less than or equal to this sum. But this is less than or equal to m star, this is less than or equal to summation j equal to 1 to infinity m star a by subadditivity. M star of the union is less than, so equal. This side less than or equal to greater than or equal to. Therefore, M star. So we are done. So it's very easy. Okay. Once you have subadditivity and finite additivity, countable additivity falls off. So really, see, in this, no real thing we have used. What we have really shown here is, if you have subadditivity and if you have finite additivity, countable additivity is cakewalk. Just follows. It's a trivial affair now. Because of the fact that these are all non-negative, at least, therefore this is a non-negative sequence. Sum as n increases, you are only adding more terms, so it is increasing sequence. It is bounded above, and therefore everything. Of course, you may say what if it is infinity, that is taken care of automatically. But at least that is possible. That is possible. So therefore, we have got, ratio 3, 4. So we have got 6. If we had that, 6 is no problem. Next, what is to be said? VL is closed under countable unions. Let me indicate the proofs and then, because these are all important steps, because all these proofs will come in handy in finally constructing the abstract measures in an abstract situation. These are all the verifications and the calculations that one has to do. And exactly the same pattern it will follow everywhere. Okay, therefore 5. BL is closed. So as I said before, enough. In fact, it's enough to show that closed under disjoint in that BL itself. Okay. So now therefore we take A1, A2, etc. These are instants in. We have to show that let A be the union. We want to show that A belongs to. Now you see what again, whenever we want to show something is in BL, there is only one thing to show. That is to show that M star X is greater than or equal to M star X intersection A plus M star X intersection A complement whatever X in. So this is what we have to show all the time. Whenever you want to show that something is measurable, this is what you do. The less than or inequality equality is automatic. Okay, this is what we want to show. Again, we have only the finiteness with us, so therefore we will reduce the whole problem to the finiteness. So let us now by 4, I know that Bn belongs to Bn. It's closed under finite. So this belongs to Bl by 4 by 3 and by 4 M star Bn is equal to summation M star. Why? Because finite additivity. Finite additivity holds by taking x equal to r. So this is valid. More than that I know this also. Right? I could put any set x and still it is valid. That's why I wanted that. Okay, so having done that, now what is meant by saying that Bn belongs to Bn? It says by definition M star x is equal to M star x intersection Bn plus M star. That is the definition. For any x star Bn, the Bn is a good name to which is it properly. Now what can I say about this? This I already found here. So this is 2. Summation j equal to 1 to n M star x intersection j plus M star x intersection b. This is by 2. Now what do you know about Bn? Compare Bn and A. Which is bigger? Bn is the intersection, truncated intersection. A is the full intersection. Okay, let me call this as 3. Now Bn is contained in A. Therefore Bn complement contains A complement. Therefore x intersection Bn complement will contain x intersection. So therefore the outer measure of this will be greater than or equal to the outer measure of this by the monotonicity. Let me call this as 4. Okay. Now go and plug that here. This x intersection Bn complement, there was a complement here, is greater than or equal to this. So therefore this is greater than or equal to summing j equal to 1 to n M star x intersection j plus M star x intersection A complement. So what have we got? Therefore, M star x greater than or equal to j equal to 1 to n M star x intersection j plus M star x intersection A complement. And this is true for again all n. So true for all n. Therefore, M star x is greater than always the passage from finite to infinite will be like this. Okay. Now, I am going to write this. This is because this term is the same. This is by subadditivity. M star of a union is less than or equal to the sum of the M star. So the sum is always greater than or equal to the union. So this is the subadditivity. But what is this? M star x intersection A plus M star x. This is just A. So we got one. Where was one? The one. That's exactly one. M star x is true. So these are only some clever way of looking at the right thing that I want to bring it to that. So what therefore we have is, we have closed, it's a sigma algebra, it's a countably additive thing on the sigma algebra, provided we have 4. What was 4? Now this result just follows by induction. I will put it in the notes. Assume it's true for n equal to 1. It is true obviously for n equal to 1, because what is the left hand side? This is x intersection A1. What is the right hand side? X. So it is obviously true for n equal to 1. Assume that it is true for n equal to k minus 1, so it's n equal to k. It's very trivial proof. I will put it in the notes. So it follows by induction. So therefore we are completely done. So therefore, I am just going to make a few remarks at this stage of the game. Therefore, D is sigma draw and M star is counter-additive. Usually called a set function because with each set it associates a number. Okay? That's why it's called a set function. Alright, so that's a nice feeling so far, but as we do not want to lose track that we started with intervals, where are they? That is the next property, 7. We have not lost the intervals. That is, E, the collection of all intervals, is E. So every interval is measurable and the measure is equal to the length. Because now the measure is what? The outer measure. Whenever a set is measurable, its measure is the same as the outer measure. So only what is meant by measure? It is the restriction of the outer measure to these sets. Whenever A belongs to BL, we call M star A as the measure of A. In fact, then we write it as MA. It's a measure. So therefore, we have not lost the intervals. We have not proved it. But that's a claim now. All the intervals are there. All intervals are measurable sets, and the measure is the length. And therefore, M star, and therefore, M star restricted to BL is an extension of L restricted, L on E. So we have a function L mapping E to R star. What do we mean by the extension of a function? We have a bigger domain and a new function which maps it on this domain. such that whenever these fellows are there, such that E is contained in BL. That's why it's called extension. And not only that, the function has several parts, the domain and values. So since E is contained in BL, for a set E we can define the quantification by this or by this, both will give the same as what is meant by extension. And M star restricted to E. Whenever you take an elementary interval, M star of I will be the same as L of I. So therefore, it's an extension. That's what is meant by saying that is a M star of BL is an extension of L of E. Okay. Now, this I have not proved. Okay, that all intervals are measurable. You will see later. Now a few comments. I'll just make a few comments and close. Now the question is, here is a sigma algebra BL and E is contained in this sigma algebra. Or the collection of intervals is contained in sigma algebra measurable sets. But every collection generates a sigma algebra called the smallest sigma algebra generated by E. Therefore, if you look at the sigma algebra generated by E, this is called the sigma algebra generated by the sigma algebra generated by E, the smallest sigma algebra containing E, but here is a sigma algebra containing E, therefore this fellow must be smaller than or equal to. So therefore it says all, but what is the sigma algebra called? This is the Borel sigma algebra. All sets in the sigma algebra are called Borel sets. Okay? BE is called the Borel sigma algebra and sets in BE are called Borel sets. So therefore, all Borel sets are measurable. All Borel sets are measurable. Now, if this became equal, suppose BE became equal to BL, then Lebesgue thesis would have said, you have done 1,000 pages, but finally you got nothing new, we got only what Borel got. See, that thesis would have been rejected. But after all the beautiful efforts, Lebesgue thesis would have been rejected if BL was equal to B. It will only say there is another way of getting the Borel measure. Okay. Borel simply said, well, the same thing we did if you have intervals first, then if I put disjoint finite intervals, I want Euclid thing, the sum must be equal. So I define the measure itself as the sum of the constituent parts. Then I go to the next level. Suppose I have infinite number of disjoint intervals, countable. The union I will have to naturally define it to be the sum of this. I define it like this and then conserve the algebra generated pattern and then everything goes through. There is nothing big deal about it. You don't have to go to all the intermediate things and all. Essentially, what Borel said was this constructing process, natural constructing process he had. That's all Lebesgue would have got. But what Lebesgue said, see, Lebesgue's punchline should come somewhere. See, BL is far bigger than the cardinality of BE is C, which is the cardinality of the real line.
2 power.
No. Cardinality of the real line. The cardinality of BL we'll see later. 2 to C, which is the cardinality of the power set of So he just beats hollow, he beats Borel hollow. He raised the bar completely one level up, one notch up. He just raised the cardinality by one level up. Okay. So, that is like Cantor's hypothesis, just one level up. It could be 2-3 levels if Cantor's continuum hypothesis is not accepted. Anyway, that is the first step Lebesgue scored over Borel, in the sense that I am now able to quantify more sets than you need. So perhaps if Lebesgue had wanted to meet Borel, he would have quoted Hamlet and said, there are more measurable sets on the real line than are dreamt of in your philosophy, Borel, he would have said. Okay, so that's the situation. There are many more there are in this real life. Okay. So that is the first step of the construction of the real life. And of course, we also have those, we said that anything can be approximated by nice G delta sets, etc. So we'll come back to that question also shortly. So having got this, having got control of the fact that I can now generalize the concept of the length of the interval to a large collection of sets. Then Lebesgue went back and said, why did I raise this question? I looked at Riemann, I looked at Riemann's integral, and I found that the crucial thing there was partitioning into intervals and multiplying by that rectangular area by multiplying the base by its length and the height, which is the maximum or the minimum, whatever I can take, and look at the upper and lower interval. So therefore now I can partition by measurable sets, not necessarily by intervals. Then I can take, instead of those step functions, I can take functions which are constants in these measurable sets. And I have to define only the integral of such functions as the value into the measure of that set. And now approximate it by such functions and then do the integration. And that formalism is what is the Lebesgue integral. Formalism of that is, instead of using interval partitions as Riemann did, use measurable partitions as Lebesgue would allow you to do. And that will lead us to the notion of Lebesgue integration. Then, that is the next step. So after these questions are answered, we will see how now Lebesgue goes around generalizing the notion of integration. But then, Riemann also had this problem, Lebesgue will also have this problem. Riemann had the problem, I define the upper integral, I define the lower integral, and I will say the integral axes both are equal. Then the question is, when is it equal? Then the theorem says, if one of these set of discontinuities of measure 0. Then Lebesgue will come back to this question and say, look, I will also define the upper integral, I will also define the lower integral, and I will say, now by using measurable partitions, not interval partitions. Then again I have the upper integral and the lower integral. I will say the function is Lebesgue integrable if these two are equal. Well, when is it equal? And that's where the notion of measurability of a function comes into the picture. Just as the continuity of the function was important for Riemann, is the measurability of the function that becomes important. It is this measurability notion is what is built into the definition of a random variable. You say x inverse of an interval is an event. That statement is the fact that the random variable is a measurable function with respect to these two this Borel sigma algebra on the real line and the sigma algebra of events on the other side. That is first. Put it into the measurability. That's first. If you go into the definition, it is because if it is not there, then nothing can proceed. The whole integration will falter. Okay, that's absolutely necessary. That's Lebesgue's built-in thing, that all my integrations can be done, provided they start off with a nice function. What do you mean by nice function? I mean by what are known as measurable functions. So that's the thing. So then he also used these right conditions. Now this is as far as the parallel that goes between Riemann and Lebesgue. Riemann took a finite interval, closed interval, and then bounded function. Lebesgue will take, instead of a finite interval, he will take a finite measurable set. And then, instead of a bounded function, he will take a bounded function on a bounded measurable function on a. So, Riemann had this A, B and then F bounded. Lebesgue would have a measurable set and F a bounded measurable function. Bounded, continuous, almost integral. Eventually he needs that for the integral case. Here you will have F on a bounded measurable set. Instead of a bounded interval, you have a bounded measurable set, and then you will have a bounded measurable function and define the integral. But at that stage, Riemann would say, okay, I got an integral, you have got an integral, what is the guarantee that, well, then we are all confused. Which is the integral? Then Lebesgue says, your integral will be equal to my integral. Then Riemann asks, then what did you do better then, if my integral is going to be your integral? Then he says, I can define integrals for more functions. There are measurable functions which are not in your category. I will still define the integral of those functions. So not only I not only generalize the interval, I have generalized your integral also. Whenever your integral exists, my integral exists and yours is equal to mine. But there are many functions for which my integral exists, you cannot define the integral. That's it. Next point is scores over Riemann. Then he said, I am not going to leave you completely to that, and said, I don't even need a bounded measurable set. I don't even need bounded measurable functions. I can do things for even complex fellows. An unbounded set, an unbounded function, I can still be talking about integrals. Basically what I need is the measurability of the function and some minor, whenever it is unbounded, it doesn't become unruly unbounded. Even in the unbounded there is certain method in that madness. Then I can still do this. But as far as this, so what Riemann would do is only A to B. So whenever, see, you can even see the prejudice, mathematicians have been the worst fellows as far as the prejudices are concerned. Whenever the interval was not finite, so there are two things that Riemann puts. One is the interval should be finite and the function should be bounded. So whenever one of these conditions is violated and you want to define some kind of an integral, we will call, the people said, no, that is improper integral. That's not proper. That's what is called as improper integral. Okay? Suppose she handled all those improper integrals. See, always it has been, you define the square root of 2 and say it is not p by q. That is irrational. Okay? It is improper. See, this is a typical rejection of a new idea by any society. And mathematicians very strangely have been giving names like that. Okay? Irrational, improper, and let's not go more. There are many, many more. Okay. So therefore, Lebesgue goes further. He says, I don't care for the finite interval, I don't care for the bounded function, I take any general measurable set and any general measurable function, I will be able to get the notion of the integral. So that is the, where he simply leaves Riemann bar behind and goes. But, just to keep him in check, it turns out BL is not equal to, obviously. God is very great. He says that don't be too proud. You are not able to do completely. You are not measured every set. There are lots of sets which you have not measured. In fact, the number of sets you have not measured is as big as the sets you have measured. So the non-measurable sets is also of the same cardinality, unfortunately. So therefore, good job, nice job, feel happy, don't feel very proud that you have created something, the end of which is the end of the story. There is nothing like the end of the story. The beat goes on, as they say. Okay. So there will have to be more and more investigations. Okay, now one final comment I will make. So this, see, we will see that is why I always say that if Hamlet is born, if Shakespeare is born today, if he writes an exam in Hamlet, he will fail if he doesn't read Bradley's comments. If Fourier is born today and writes an exam on Fourier series, he will fail because he won't even understand what is being taught in as Fourier analysis. This become also abstract and so on and so forth. And similarly, perhaps, if Riemann is born today, because Riemann, these people are too clever, okay, they have learned it immediately very fast. If Riemann is born today and writes an exam on integration, he will fail. So don't be ashamed if you fail an exam on integration. You're a good company. The reason is, now the whole idea of integration itself is, what did we do? So we started with length, then we went to outer measure, then we had the measure, then we defined the integral. This is how we'll go. Okay, first we'll have the length. So in general, therefore, we'll have a measure, then an integral. Okay, so we want to start with an outer measure and then an elementary set and then go on to that. Now what you do is, you look at the other way around. When I did all this, I found that the integral is a nice linear. It preserves additivity, I mean the addition and scalar multiplication. But the whole problem in all this integration theory is this limiting process. Limit n tending to infinity Fn over some set E. Is this equal? That's what the heartburn of all integration theory is. This limiting process is not a problem. This is a very bad problem with Riemann. Many of the Riemann's problems are taken care of by Lebesgue integration, but still there are lots of heartburns in Lebesgue. There need to be some conditions on this. So what people look at it is the other way around. After all, you cannot direct finally what does integration do? It takes a collection of functions and assigns a number to it. So instead of all this nonsense, you could have straight away started with a collection of functions, which is a reasonable collection of functions. What do I mean by reasonable? A limiting process holder. Limits are all there. It's closed center limit, it's linear, it's a vector space structure, and then define for every such fellow there one number. It's a linear functional you define. So you take a collection of functions and define a linear function. If you want complex integrals, you see C. If you want real integrals, you see R. And then you say that F is a good collection which is closed under not only addition and scalar multiplication but also limiting processes. And let L be a linear functional which also is continuous. That is, the limiting process holds. Straight away I define the integral where this part word is not there at all. I will consider only integrals as continuous linear functionals on a decent collection of functions. Then I will go backwards. Once I have integral, I can define measure. See, it's backward. So the whole thing is, the egg came first, the chicken came first. It's not clear. So we started with intervals, we started with measure, we defined the integral. But there is a way to go starting from you start with the definition of the integral as a linear functional and then build up the measure. Now, so there are various, this may be hindsight, it may look like hindsight. It is hindsight because we started off from that. Suppose instead of Riemann, somebody else had born, and you observed after all the area only assigns a number, and then looked at it in that direction, the measure would not have come into the picture at all. So it is only a question of assigning a measure, assigning a number and a function, and call it integral. It have gone through it and later realize it also gives rise to the notion of a measure. So, if hindsight, if you are having Riemann behind you, it would not be hindsight if you just forget Riemann, looked at the problem completely by yourself, you wouldn't feel it. It would also appear as natural. After all, what is an integral? Area is what? I am calculating something and under that I am associating this graph, with that I am associating a number. So it's a linear function, finished. I want that to be linear, I want it to be decently continuous, limiting process must hold, and therefore I would have started off from there. It is because this notion of linear functions etc. came much later in the history of analysis. They also, so in other words, people had not seen linear algebra well, properly. If they had seen linear algebra properly, they would have immediately jumped on it and got it earlier itself. But it took the early 20th century where all this analysis was well developed, and then they realized that the whole business is linear functional theory. Integration, therefore, is simply functional analysis. Nothing is linear functional analysis. You have a collection, reasonable vector space of functions on which you define a topology, and it is make sure that the limiting processes hold under the topology, is closed under that, and then define a continuous linear function. You have an integral. So you will now start talking about anybody, Haar integral, Daniel integral, everybody has an integral. You can also have an integral, deciding on what functions you want to choose, what is the topology you want to put on it, and what linear functionals you want to. And that is how delta function can be interpreted as an integral. It associates a number with each function, namely the value of the function. That is where it is not an integral in the Riemann sense, it is not an integral in the Lebesgue sense, but is an integral in the general sense, like this, that with each function in the collection, what is the collection, so-called test function, what is the topology of the test functions, and you assign a number to each such function, where the limiting process hold on. So it's a beautiful integral, and that is what the delta measure is. Okay, so that is how all these things get interpreted. So that is the 20th century way of looking at. I don't know what is in store for 21st century. Let me say this is all nonsense. There is an easier way of looking at it. Okay, so but I will now next time I will look at the last part I need to do, that the intervals are all there, and then get into the integration. So once we define all these aspects of integration, going through finite bounded functions, finite measure set, etc., then we'll push it to the general case and look at the convergence theorems. Then we'll have the integration theory also. So that will be about the next. But we have to worry about the classes from next week onwards.